we are going to get through our Week 7 NFL recap. So, Kaz, I'm going to throw it to you first. What were your thoughts on the Broncos putting down an ass whooping to the Saints, 33-10?
Just a team that I'm wrong on. Apparently, I don't know, man. The Broncos are some defense is good. Offense, they're kind of like the Chiefs. You see what I'm saying? They're doing the thing where it's like you watch them play, and when they're winning, you're like, you're beatable. Then beat them. Like what can't be figured out if they're that bad of a team? You talked about Patrick Mahomes' stats of pretty much playing one of his worst seasons, if not his worst season that he's ever started in his career. Okay. But like I said, when you watch, saying every snap of the game, okay, there are things in between all of the things that they're not doing that factor in. Okay, so yeah, there's interceptions, there's turnovers, there's whatever. But it's like, okay, what about the play where he extends the play with his legs that no one ever just forgets about? Huge play and things like that. But back to the Broncos, it's just like I don't have a take on them, man. It's such a weird team. They're not supposed to be good. They have a very bad offense. Bo Nix, from what I can tell, is not a good quarterback at all. He's a footballer, but he's not a good quarterback. He looks like just like a varsity quarterback who's a senior, who's on his last hoorah, who's just going out there and trying to do whatever he can do just to get a few stats here and there. And you know what I'm saying? And if he throws a pick, cool. If he runs the ball for 50 yards, cool. No matter what, he's got the starting role, and somehow, some way, his team's rumbling and fumbling into these wins. Now, I'm not saying they're a great team, but what I'm saying is just like they should be losing a lot of games. The Broncos should have I would give them 2 wins this season. And that's it. And that's putting it very lightly. But their defense, like I said, is good, and they're finding ways to win. And I think that's going to be a big part of the latter end of the season. So now we're in the middle of the season. I think we're going to start to see these teams do what the Pittsburgh Steelers have done for a lot of years and just kind of win these games, 19-13, 17-15, because so many players are hurt, so many new guys on new teams, and like you're not seeing what's supposed to happen with all these superstars going here and there work out. So the Broncos are just one of those teams, and that's all I got to say about them. They're just one of those teams.
Moving on to the next game, we had another London game, again with the Jacksonville Jaguars. They have been there, couldn't tell you how many times the past couple of years, and you sit back and wonder, why the Jags? Of all teams you can send over there. But they go over there, they stay there for the second game, and they get it done against the New England Patriots. Before I go on to the Jags, Drake May looks like he could be the answer at quarterback. The way he's played makes you wonder, why the hell didn't he start from week 1? You knew going in that this season was going to be a shit show. I know you want to protect him. You got to get him the experience. For 26 for 37, 276 yards, 2 touchdowns, he's taking care of the ball with receivers that no one knows of. He is their leading rusher with 18 yards with 3 carries. He is doing everything that he can. This Patriots team, I believe, has found their quarterback, and I think the timing is just right. When you brought in Cam Newton, it was really hard because that was the first quarterback to come after Tom Brady. Then you bring in Mac Jones, who is also after kind of Tom Brady, but then Mac Jones is now gone in Jacksonville as we speak, and then Drake May is just the guy who followed Mac Jones. So it's not that pressure on the New England Patriots as it was, like I mentioned, with a Cam Newton and a Mac Jones. Duval, baby. I am always a fan of the Jags. Doug Peterson will always have a place in my heart, so I'm always going to want to root for them. Brian Thomas Jr. is legit. People are saying he's better than Marvin Harrison. I think that's kind of crazy. Marvin Harrison doesn't get the touches Brian Thomas gets. And that's not saying Kyler Murray just doesn't throw him the ball, but Kyler Murray just kind of does what Kyler Murray does. He runs the ball a lot more than a Trevor Lawrence. So on those times when Marvin Harrison is open, Kyler Murray's taking off. Tank Bigsby. Travis Etienne, week after week, has not looked good. You can blame the injuries, you can blame the O-line, but Tank Bigsby, 26 carries, 118 yards, single-handedly carrying this team to a victory. Trevor Lawrence hasn't been playing the greatest this year. When you get that huge paycheck, people are expecting you to come in and give them return on investment right then and there. So he wasn't able to do that throughout the beginning of the season, excuse me. But he has been playing great as of late, and he resulted in a win. So the Jacksonville Jaguars are still having to figure some things out, but this was a great win. Doug Peterson's seat got a little bit cooler. It's not as hot anymore. So I think moving forward, they are going to be able to make some things happen. They're 2-6, so they're going to have to win some games or they're 2-4. Excuse me. They're going to have to make some things happen. So Kaz, moving forward, the Lions beat the Minnesota Vikings 31-29.
Hey, I will say this. That's probably the best division in football right now.
Yes, sir.
It's just fun. That was fun. That's just one of those games where it's like, okay, you know, we know what both teams capable of. We know one team's undefeated, another team is not a joke. I believe I picked Detroit to win. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I picked Detroit to win. I don't have my paper with me, but like, dude, the Lions are like insanely good. Like they could be just as easily undefeated as they are with the record they have now. I think they have 2 losses right now, if I'm not mistaken. They're 5-2, right? Yeah, I think they're 5-2. Yeah. So, anyways, yeah, 31-29. Just all around, just good performances from quarterback to Amon-Ra St. Brown to Jahmyr Gibbs. Finally, he looked like what we thought he's going to be coming in his rookie year. But again, next week we may not see that because they're just so well rounded. Detroit's just a fun team to watch. Minnesota's a fun team to watch too, but I think a lot of people are more so just cheering for Minnesota just because it's like, it wasn't expected to happen that way when McCarthy went down. Nobody has Sam Darnold doing what he's doing, but at some point, these undefeated teams are going to lose games. If there's going to be a team that's not going to lose, it's going to be the Chiefs, like I already talked about. The Vikings lost to a very, very, very good team, a team that was in the NFC Championship last year. That game didn't disappoint at all. So it came down to the wire. It was a very close game. It was expected. It was decently high scoring. Just good football all around. Good football around. And like I told you guys before, when a game is decided by a few points, you got to give credit where credit's due to the better coach and the execution of who has the ball when it comes down to it. Okay, so at the end of the day, Minnesota loses by 2 points to the Detroit Lions. That means that there was an opportunity there for them to kick a field goal and win, and there's also an opportunity there for Detroit to not allow them to be that, or to not be in that position and lose. Good football, can't complain about it. I hope to see more of that, especially out of that division, because I think it's going to come down to the wire. All it takes the Bears to win a couple more games, and it's going to get very weird. We know who the Vikings are for the most part. We definitely know who the Detroit Lions are. If the Bears find a way to actually show signs of being really good right now, we don't know. Their identity's kind of like, we'll see. That's 4 teams that division that might look like how the AFC North looked last year, I think it was, where the entire division went above 500. So NFC North made a big step forward. NFC North matchups are going to be awesome. This was just another good matchup, and I think that the better coach team won.
100%. And we are going to move on to the Seattle Seahawks beating the Atlanta Falcons 34-14. This is a game that what you did not want to see with the Falcons. We've seen the game against the Eagles where he takes them down the field, drives them down the field to win the game. This was the Kirk Cousins that you didn't want to see. 24-35, 2 interceptions. Geno outplayed him. Geno Smith to go out there, 18 of 28 for 207 and 2 touchdowns. He didn't write back. I am a huge fan of Kenneth Walker III, and for him to go out there 69 yards and a touchdown. DK Metcalf, I say this week after week after week. We don't hear his name anymore when you talk about top receivers, but 99 yards on 4 catches and a touchdown. He is making play after play after play. He does fumble. He has a turnover problem. I get it. He has a temper. I get it. He goes out there and makes plays. We can't sit here and talk about Kenneth Walker and not talk about Bijan Robinson. 21 carries, 103 yards, 1 touchdown. He is what to be advertised. We heard that he was going to get a CMC workload, and that's what that looks like. Kyle Pitts, 7 receptions for 65 yards. This Falcons team is going to figure it out right now. The Saints are not healthy, so the Bucks are not healthy. You would expect for them to come out of this division. So they are playing really great right now. Drake London needs to kind of get back to what he was doing. He had a couple big games earlier in the season, but he's had some quiet games. Same with Kyle Pitts. So if you can get him, Kyle Pitts, Drake London, and Bijan Robinson playing on their best any game of the week, they're going to be a team to play with because Kirk Cousins is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Moving on, Cass, another game, unfortunately. We got to talk about the injuries. The Cincinnati Bengals beat the Cleveland Browns, and Deshaun Watson tears his Achilles.
I mean, I know people don't want to hear this, but sucks. They weren't good anyway, so it doesn't really matter. I don't think when it's all said and done, if he played the rest of the season or not. Dude just got a streak of bad luck, man. Some of that might have been self-inflicted, but all in all, it's like, I mean, he's gonna have one of the biggest just telltale stories when it's all said and done for him. Like where he started off, where his ceiling was at, to where he ended up. What I'll say is, like I mentioned earlier, the Bengals, I don't think they're a terrible team. Okay, very slow start to the season, but not a terrible team. Okay. They don't have a phenomenal team, but they got guys who can single-handedly take over this game. So you got the Bengals. Joe Burrow didn't look too crazy through the air. And he had T. Higgins with 82 yards, and that's all it took to beat this Browns team. It's not an impressive win by the Bengals. It's just an expected win, especially with Deshaun Watson going down. So the Browns are they're a bottom 3 team, if you were to ask me. I don't think that they were ever going to be great, even if when they got Nick Chubb back and things like that. There's too many missing pieces. And then now, you got to do it without, Amari Cooper. It's like, okay, well, good luck. Because all it takes is one of these receivers to go off on the Bengals, and it's going to be wraps. All it takes is about 16 points to beat the Browns, and you're good. And I think that goes on any given Sunday. So just a game where it was an expected win by the Bengals. Not really much to say about it stat-wise. Kind of a boring-ish game, but the better team definitely won that one. And again, like I said, watch out for the Bengals. They might put themselves in position to do something that's never been done. So,
all right, Cass, we're gonna have to throw a wrench in the show. I'm gonna have to take Blue to the bathroom. I text you the next 4 games, so if you don't mind going in depth on those 4 games, I'll be right back.
All right. So, looks like the next game we're going to talk about is the Rams at the Raiders, I believe it was. So let's see. So Raiders lost. We can talk about the elephant in the room, and that is the decision making by the Raiders head coach to kick a field goal when they were down. They ended up some people argue that the field goal was a good move because they need to get the ball back quickly, but at the end of the day, you still need a touchdown to win the game. So I vote, at the end of the day, you don't have a position to win off a field goal. You should just go for it. You're not a good football team. You no longer have Devontae Adams, who hasn't been there anyways for quite a few weeks due to a hamstring injury. And then you are on the road in LA. Stafford didn't have a terrible game. He didn't have a great game. He wasn't working with much. Brock Bowers is still continuing to play well, had 93 yards. And Alexander Mattinson for the Raiders ended up with 92 yards rushing. So just one really bad team, another team that's just got a lot of missing pieces, battling it out. The home team won. And again, it's just another matchup where it's like, it's kind of expected. It's not that I didn't think that the Raiders were good enough to go out there and, pull off this upset, which wouldn't be a huge upset on the road, but the Rams are probably given the quarterback play alone, just a better team than the Raiders. So I think I said Ravens earlier, but Raiders. So LA won that game. For me, it was a no-brainer, and I'm surprised that they didn't put up even more points. LA, just again, from the quarterback play alone, going against this Raiders team, I could see more of a 24, 27 point scoring on their end rather than 20 points. So LA wins 20-15, and they're moving on, and they might turn some things around as some of their guys come back from injury. Moving on to the next game. It's an ugly game. Panthers at Commanders. So this is a game where Jaden Daniels went out, right? I believe it was. Sorry, this is one of the games I actually did not watch. But where's it at? I can't even remember where it's at. But no, this is not the game. No. All in all, 40-7, Carolina Panthers win. I kind of Toddy, when did Daniels go out? If you don't mind me asking, I know you're right here in the YouTube chat, but I can't really remember when he went out. But that's almost 6 late and still lost. Vikes got almost. Yeah. Oh, and Toddy mentioned about the Vikings game. He said that they got 6 fumbles late and still lost. He said Bears are winning it, which I think is kind of funny. But back to the Commanders though, 40-7 against the Panthers. Not an impressive game for Andy Dalton at all, as expected. And with Mariota in the game, 18 for 23, 205 yards, 2 touchdowns. Don't know where that came from, but not much to say about that. All in all, it's just, again, another matchup where you have these two teams, and one team is very, very bad, and another team, given their early quarterback play with Jaden Daniels, was a really good team, was the best team in the NFC East, and arguably one of the best teams in the NFC before the Jaden Daniels injury. So, just an expected win by the Washington Commanders. I wouldn't foresee it being 40-7 with Marcus Mariota under center, but clearly it's just coming to show that when you're a really bad team, and when you're a really, really bad team, you're playing against a good team on the road, it doesn't take much to get it going. So mainly shout out to Mariota for stepping up and having a solid game, even though it wasn't needed. They could have won this game, obviously, 10-7. But they won 40-7, another dominant performance. I'm not sure where they're at in points this season, but they have to be either 1 or 2 overall points this season. They've had how many games over 30 points? So, and this is me just spitballing, firing from the hip. I don't know how many points that they're averaging this season, but they got to be either 1 or 2. That's my guess. So, Commanders win against the Carolina Panthers. Very much expected. Just surprised that it was by that margin with Marcus Mariota under center. Yes, so I did cover down the list the Rams, Raiders, and Panthers, Commanders. So we are on the Jets, Steelers.
Perfect. And just doubling down on what Cass said, this team has scored under 30 points 1 time. So they 40-7 last week, 30-23 the week before, 34-13, 42-14, 38-33, 21-18, 37-20. So this team can put up the numbers. But this next game, the New York Jets, Sunday Night Football, travel to Pittsburgh. All we hear about, Davante Adams and Aaron Rodgers. They're back together. Sorry, Pittsburgh. Sorry, Russ. Your debute's going to have to wait because Davante Adams and Aaron Rodgers are together. Davante Adams essentially went from a 2-5 team to another 2-5 team, but one 2-5 team has his best friend. So it makes it all worth it. Aaron Rodgers, yes, Garrett Wilson, you can say, did make the plays. He made some drops and became interceptions. There are a lot of things that just didn't go their way. But the Jets, no matter what the offense did, we knew that the Jets defense was going to hold teams, no matter what. The offense could be shaky with Zach Wilson. It doesn't matter. This defense is going to hold down. To give 102 yards to Najee Harris, 21 carries, it isn't great. Najee is another running back who's been up and down this season, but for him to go out there and have that dominance. And the reason they brought Russell Wilson in was because they wanted to get more big plays downfield. And boy, did they get it. George Pickens might have one of the best hands in the NFL. He's catching everything. 5 catches, 111 yards, 1 touchdown. George Pickens is an up-and-coming wide receiver, but like I mentioned, with Russell Wilson, the dynamic that he brings to this team, the play action, Justin Fields got them to 4-2. Everyone's saying, boo-hoo, Justin Fields, he shouldn't have got – this is his job to lose. They brought Russell Wilson in for a reason. They spent a total of $1.2 million on both of these quarterbacks. They're not invested in either one. They're going to give them both a shot to see who is going to be the quarterback moving forward. The New York Jets have a lot to figure out. We talked about earlier in this episode, Breece Hall finally came back to life, but that's not going to be enough. For Breece Hall to lead in rushing yards and receiving yards when you have Garrett Wilson and Davante Adams, there's a lot of things that you can say about that. So is that the last game? Cass, finishing up the Week 7 NFL recap. The Cardinals beat the Chargers 17-15.
It's bullcrap, man. I think this might be one of the worst weeks in football yet when it comes to a lot of matchups because, I mean, you look at both teams. Look at the Chargers. Okay, you look at the Cardinals. Both teams are not. Arizona had potential to have a high-powered offense, but like it didn't turn out the way that it was going to turn out. Adding Marvin Harrison Jr., which is fine. I mean, he's a rookie, and Kyler Murray's just not making his comeback. I mean, there's a high ceiling there, but like not like they would reach it, so it's expected. As the Chargers completely changed their offense, and like they're just such a slow offense now. You know what I mean? Like they don't. It's a hardball that offense. It is, and you look at the 17-15 score. Okay, but Justin Herbert 349 yards passing. All right, James Conner 101 yards on the ground, and Will Dissly, the tight end, with 81 yards. He had a really good game. The fact that we went from seeing the Chargers have the potential to put a lot of points in Justin Herbert's early years to seeing him finally put up the yardage that we're used to him seeing. I mean, this guy he's a guy who, for the last like X amount of years, has been one of the top guys in yards, like in the league, to like almost like in the middle bottom tier when it comes to yardage. To kind of finally see it again with Will Dissly, apparently, it's just unfortunate seeing how these teams can't find a way to give us a good game. I don't know what it's going to take for us to get a good game out of both these teams. The Cardinals, I mean, I know week 1 they played the Bills. That was probably their best game that they played. I know they had another good game too. I'm not sure who it was against in like a few weeks ago. I think it was maybe last week or a few weeks ago. But they had a pretty good game too, pretty awesome performance. But outside of that, like they just look like nothing. So we have two teams that look like nothing. It's like, unfortunately, there has to be a winner. So it's just, yet again, like I mentioned earlier, this is just not really a good week, I think, for football games. And it's just one of those games where I'm like, we can break it down any which way. You know, like we can talk about the fact that, you know, Will Dissly, he accumulated for 81 of Justin Herbert's 349 yards. We can talk about the fact that, you know, they couldn't score more than 17 points from either team. But it's like sometimes there's just bad football games. And I think this just was another one. I think there's just a handful of bad football games this year. And no matter how you break it down, no matter what you want to look at statistically, there's just not much to say about it. Okay, the Chargers had a chance to win the game, and they didn't win.
Definitely. And before moving on to the last segment of episode 117 of Statutory Politics, we have the man, the myth, the legend in the comments, Shaun Huckle. Thanks for holding it down, guys. Of course, Shaun, you know me and Kaz are going to handle business. Toddy had to go be a father, so we all know what comes with that.